poor Shari Putra. Now Shari Putra is the most senior and most learned, enlightened monk in the dualistic sense of feeling he is in nirvana. He's kind of attained nirvana, but he's not quite, because his body is still walking around in the world. But as soon as his body stops, he will be where his mind is, which is in nirvana, apart from the world, the way he understands nirvana. So actually, he's the wisest in the terms of the dualistic type of Buddhism, but yet he's a little bit foolish in terms of the non-dualistic form of Buddhism. So he always does the wrong thing, poor Shari Putra, in these sutras. But sometimes Buddha is so mean, he makes him think things. So thereupon, magically influenced by the Buddha, the Venerable Shari Putra had this thought. If the Buddha field is pure, only to the extent that the mind of the Bodhisattva is pure, then when Shakyamuni Buddha, this Buddha here, was engaged in the career of the Bodhisattva, getting to be a Buddha, his mind must have been impure. Otherwise, how could this Buddha field appear to be so impure? Do you follow? In other words, he sees this world in the way we ordinarily see it as a mess. And the Buddha's just given a spiel about how a Buddha, when they become Buddha, their land is perfect, it's fabulous. It's like exquisite and fantastic. Made of every positive thing. The land is pure generosity and so on. And Shari Putra doesn't see it that way. So of course, then Buddha reads his mind. Well, he plants the thought in his mind to start with. It's really mean. Reads his mind and he says, "What do you think, Shari Putra? Is it because the sun and moon are impure, that those are imperfect, that those blind from birth do not see them?" Shari Putra said, "Oh no, Lord, it is not so. The fault lies with those blind from birth and not with the sun and moon." Buddha declared, in the same way, Shari Putra, the fact that some living beings do not behold the splendid display of virtues of the Buddhaverse of the Tathagata is due to their own ignorance. It is not the fault of the Tathagata. Shari Putra, the Buddhaverse of the Tathagata is pure, but you do not see it. And so Shari Putra says, "Oh yes, Buddha, okay, yes, but he's still thinking, forget it, this place sucks, it's not pure." Then God gets into the Brahma. Then Brahma Shikin, that's the creator God, that's Jehovah, said to the Venerable Shari Putra, "Tut, tut, tut, Reverend Shari Putra, don't say the Buddha field of the Tathagata is imperfect. Shari Putra, the Buddha field of the Buddha is perfect. I see the splendid expanse of the Buddha field of the Lord Shakyamuni as equal to the splendor of, for example, the abodes of the highest deities." So I see it like that, says Brahma. So then Shari says, okay. But he still doesn't get it. So then Buddha takes his foot and he puts his toe on the ground like this. So thereupon the Lord touched the ground of this billion-world galactic universe with his big toe, and suddenly it was transformed into a huge mass of precious jewels, a magnificent array of many hundreds of thousands of clusters of precious gems, until it resembled the universe of the Tathagata Ratnavyuha, which means array of jewels. Everyone in the entire assembly was filled with wonder, each perceiving himself or herself seated on a throne of jeweled lotuses. And it's not, jewels is just a metaphor for something really precious and fabulous. And you have to think of it as like they suddenly saw their own bodies made of jeweled plasma. They saw the land, the trees, everything made of like just flowing jewel. And they felt everything, it was the bliss energy of everything at the root of the universe. They saw, and particularly most importantly, they saw exactly everything happening to them and to every other animal or living being they were aware of as being exactly what that being needed to evolve optimally and maximally toward freedom and enlightenment with optimal, sort of efficiency sort of thing. So they saw the world like that, like a, instead of seeing it like a wild wilderness, they saw it like a horticultural garden with every plant at the exact right temperature, moisture, soil, richness, nutrients, and everything perfect. Even though it might look like they were struggling or they were like being eaten by a lion or whatever, everything that happened was completely the optimal thing to happen to them, to evolve with maximum evolutionary velocity toward perfection, toward Buddhahood. What that means is that, what does it mean to evolve toward Buddhahood? Well, what is Buddhahood? From the Mahayana point of view, what Buddhahood is when you're a Buddha, you might be manifesting yourself as a person sitting here. You might be, if that were beneficial to others. You have no drive to do so in yourself. Why? Because just like you and I now today feel like we are sort of inside our skin here, in our body, when you're a Buddha, you feel like the whole universe is your skin. The whole universe is your body. You are and the whole universe is infinite, actually. So you feel like you're an infinite being. And you feel yourself present in that infinity in every molecule of it as bliss awareness. So naturally, you don't need to manifest some sort of a form opposed to another form. You are every form. So Buddha perceives himself as the tip of every one of your noses. But if you might have a slight itch in your nose or a pain in your nose or something wrong with it, the Buddha would even perceive you feeling something wrong with it as just a configuration of bliss. And would perceive, you don't say even really him or her or it, self as that. Do you follow me? And don't make it completely incomprehensible. It is incomprehensible ultimately, but it isn't completely incomprehensible because, for example, all of you in life must have had a moment when you transcended your feeling of boundedness. Maybe when you were listening to a certain symphony. Maybe when you were in love with someone. Maybe when your child was just born. Or maybe when you were on your team rowing for victory. Or like, trying to catch the last pass. You were suddenly were the whole team. You were identifying, your sense of identity broadened to embrace others in some way, right? Haven't you ever had a moment of that? Feeling sort of one with things, of some degree of things around you. And then it quickly passes, of course, as you get worried and nervous and what happened, or it wears off, whatever it is. So, but Buddhahood is just expanding into that limitlessly. And if you could expand to it a little bit under certain circumstance, why, given infinite time and evolutionary development, couldn't you expand infinitely? It becomes logically possible. Do you follow? So that is a state of, in a way, it's a state of perfect bliss and perfect freedom. Because you're everywhere and everything, and you could therefore shape any part of yourself into anything. And you sort of naturally, almost spontaneously do that. Why would you shape yourself into a specific thing? Although you would still be all the other things, but you'd also manifest something extra or special. Why? Well, you might encounter someone who's very knotted up and twisted up and freaked out and messed up, which you would be feeling you were that person too. And then they're all like, and you would feel you were that, and you wouldn't be bothered by them doing any kind of contortion, but you would be aware that they are bothered by it. And you couldn't just be them and somehow from within them kind of like that comedy with The Mask, where the guy shifts into all different shapes and forms. What's it called? The Mask, I think. Steve, that funny comedian, what's his name?
Jim Carrey.
What?
Jim Carrey.
Who?
Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey, that's right. But you couldn't be like the plastic energy within the contorted being and start like uncontorting them. Because if you did, if they suddenly felt involuntary uncontortions when they were contorting, coming from within them, they would think they were having an epileptic fit and they would get more freaked out. And they would fight that, and they'd fight you, and then they'd be worse. So you can't sort of explode them into bliss, the beings. Because then they'd think they were exploding. They would think bliss was a threat, it was killing them or something. So instead, you go and you manifest as a being in front of them, or as a mirror, and showing them themselves as a contorted, if they can take that. Or otherwise, emanate yourself as a beautiful partner contortionist, who can then embrace them in a contorted manner, and then help them to gradually uncontort themselves, if necessary. And it's effortless for you to do that because you are all of it. Do you follow me? That's what's called the emanation body of the Buddhas. So the Shakyamuni Buddha is a being who emanates a certain form that helps the people on planet Earth uncontort themselves, but it seems to take time, at least from the being's point of view. Do you follow me? I know it's a little bit, but it's impressionistic. But I'm just, that's the Mahayana vision of what a Buddha is. In other words, that's the Mahayana vision of what we all have the evolutionary potential to achieve.